Hello again, thanks for watching. This is Mike, and this is our third installment of our video series on how to use Adobe InDesign's data merge function to improve your board game prototyping chops. Here in this video, I'm going to talk a bit about a couple of advanced techniques. They're advanced to me because I'm not really a graphic designer. They may be super basic, but these are just kind of to help you understand some of the things that data merging can be used for that are a bit outside the box. For this, I'm going to show you one of our projects with cards that have some certain weird things going on, and also a tiling game that we have. It's the same game, but it's kind of a tiling aspect. So the first one I'm going to talk about are these cards, and let me show you the spreadsheet here. This spreadsheet, we wanted to have a set of iconography to go along with each individual text box because that just felt like it would be a cool interface for us. The problem is that each individual card's text box is a little bit tricky. It has it's a little bit, it can be a little bit wordy. So we wanted to represent those words with an accompanying set of icons. So the way we did that is through image linking. So instead of actually having the text box be just text, I made images for each text box in an Illustrator program. So for me, it's Inkscape, which is the wrong choice. The correct thing to use for that would probably be either Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator. But for me, Inkscape is just what I kind of was raised on, and it's free, it's easy. So I exported a series of images to our little links folder over here, and each one of those is a different picture. They're all the same dimensions and everything, but you can tell that the iconography on these is pretty different. So what we have is a whole text box link column, and it's linking in those individual text boxes to the cards themselves. We also have the illustrations. We have certain icons for those, and of course the certain text fields. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Over here we have it all plugged in, and let's take a look at the preview. So you can tell that this here is actually an entire image link, and that is the text box image. It's a little bit different for each one. So if you're looking to plug in some iconography to your projects, this is one way to do it. The tricky thing comes in where if you want to plug in iconography, it's easy to plug in images. What's tricky is plugging in images in the right locations. So what I find is if I'm really looking to build a good prototype asset, and I want to have these icons kind of peppered throughout the text boxes. If I want to have, instead of, for example, in this, if I had, instead of exploration tiles, I had an icon for the phrase exploration tiles to kind of to represent that, then it would be tricky to set up a merge for that. Like, it's possible I can just have millions of different text frames and then sort of link things one at a time into those text frames if it's like that. But I would probably end up having individual frames for each card, and I would have to kind of mess around with the text fields. There is a way, as I understand it, to do that with using a thing called greps, which is a find and replace function. I believe there's also a way that you can kind of make a custom font where it will exchange certain text strings with certain images. So there are ways that you can set that up. It's not a way that I'm personally familiar with, so this is how I do it, just as kind of a layman. But there are ways to replace and find those things to do it a little bit easier. Those are the cards that I wanted to show you. The other thing I wanted to show you were this tile. And this looks like just a hot mess, right? That is because I have linked in a bunch of custom image frames here. So let's go to overprint view so you don't have to see all that mess. And you'll notice that some of these little image frames that I have, for example, the top one field that is actually not exactly a normal box there. So like this one, for example, as well. There are a couple of these that are linking into strange shapes. And the way that I did that is I set it up by using I believe it's the pencil tool, and actually just dragged that around and drew this weird shape that you're seeing here. Let me see if I can pick that up again for you. There you go. That weird shape that you see. I then made that into an image frame. So once you have that closed off and everything, you can just select it just like any other frame, and then you just use that to link in an image. So let's take a look at what the preview of that might look like. Here you can tell that with this particular image frame, I actually linked in just a flat texture. So this is the image that's actually linked there. and it's kind of bad resolution. That's just choppy. That's just sloppy work on my part. But it links that in, but only the part that's inside that image frame is what's showing. That's useful because in this work we kind of want it to look like a watercraft. We're trying to like piece together different watercraft out there, and like certain ones have different colors and that sort of thing. Again, it's not certainly um, finished quality, but it's giving our playtesters enough of an interface to kind of go off of, where they can say, oh, this is clearly different from that. This is meant to attach here, and this has saved us tons and tons of time on prototyping. Um, and of course, you can link in normal images there. You can do all kinds of stuff. If we look at like 33 or whatever, you can see like there are different shapes of the same image. So like in with this one, it's still all this image that's being linked in. It's just being linked in there in different ways. So what you end up with is a big, weird spreadsheet that looks something like this, where everything is an image link. Right. Tons of different tiles like that. So the bottom line is or the takeaway here is that there are a lot of things that you can do with data merge, and you can always think outside the box with those. One thing, for example, is we took this image frame, and you can actually see the little glow on the outside there. You can actually apply effects to that. So if you right click it and you go to effects, we have a little outer glow there. You can do a bunch of different things. And I mean, there's the Adobe InDesign is a very, very powerful tool. So pretty much anything you can think of, you can probably do. So thanks for watching, and happy data merging.